Who doesn't like superhero movies? I'm very sorry that you chose this track. Sorry. Let me start off. Yeah, let this sink in for a minute. Yeah. So, as said, my name is Rowdy. Freelance web and app developer, senior developer with Vue.js momentarily. Let me bump this up a little bit. I'm also the lead developer of our pension app. We build it with NativeScript. I'm still the lead developer, but I'm also the sole developer, so that's easy. You can find me on Twitter at, my name, Rowdy Rabouw. And as you might have guessed, I like superhero movies. Fortunately, this one never became reality. This is Nicolas Cage testing out a Superman suit for a Tim Burton movie. And I'm not sure if it would be a really good movie. Look at him. He did do superhero movies later on, by the way. Ghost Rider, I don't know if you saw it. He did 2 movies, but fortunately, his head was up in flames most of the time. So I say that's a win. Okay, enough about this and me. Let's start off with some browser APIs. What I did is I tried to couple browser APIs to superheroes, so their capabilities. The first one is this one, is Professor X. Professor X has the ability to use a tool called Cerebro and find mutants all around the world. So any guesses what browser API that could reflect? Good, geolocation API, correct. I start with this one because this is probably one you all heard of, maybe even used. Let me point out that on the right-hand bottom, you see the browser support. The first 2, 4, 6, 7 are desktop browsers or laptop browsers. The 3 after that are mobile browsers. And the last one is about if it needs to be on a secure connection, if you need an HTTPS connection. It's 2019, so every website should be on a secure connection, I think, but just for reference, it's there. As you can see, it's supported everywhere now. That's good, but it has to be on an HTTPS connection, which makes sense because you're sending personal information over the internet. How is it done? If you use it on a mobile phone, it will use the GPS in your phone. If you're on a laptop or desktop, it will look up your public IP address and guesses where you are. It's pretty accurate most of the times. So how do you use it in JavaScript? Because it's supported everywhere, you don't have to do feature testing, so you can just say geolocation, get current position, and it will return a position to you with a latitude, a longitude, an accuracy, and an altitude. If we do this in the Netherlands, the altitude is always null. Makes sense. I'm not sure how it is here, but we'll see. So let's try it out. And this is a good thing. On top, it's in Dutch. It will request me to give permission to use my location. And you will see later on different APIs also ask for explicit permission. And that's a good thing. Let's see what happens. Okay. It says it's pretty accurate, 30 meters or so. And altitude is null. I'm not sure if that's a mistake or whether we're also really flat here. I haven't been to a conference that I've... Yeah. Okay, but you have a location, and I made it a link to Google Maps, but that's not interesting. You want to use it on your own website, for instance. So, nobody did that for me, so let me do that. What you do is you create, for instance, a div with an ID of map, which you can relate to later on. And then you have to run a script with an API key that you obtain from Google Maps, and you can then interact with it. Again, you do get current position to get the position, latitude, longitude, and you plot it on a map. And that's the second part. I want a map. I want the center to be my current position. And in this case, I chose for satellite to get a satellite overview and a particular zoom level. And on top of that, I want to have a marker on the current position. So let's see how that worked out. Is this where we are? Yeah, I think pretty much. You'll be the judge of that. But you can use this, definitely use this on your website. Also to give people directions to your office, for instance. But don't ask for permission if someone enters your website. Let them click a button or whatever to trigger this, because no one will say, yeah, sure, you can know my location. All right, next one. Our friend Thor. Weather API. That's a nice one. About Thor, by the way, my girlfriend goes with me to superhero movies, and she told me my body is looking more like Thor every day. At first I was, yeah, compliment, but yeah, you get it. If you don't, just ask the other ones. It's not a weather API, it's a battery status API. It's power. And it will give you the current level. Also, you can hook into changes of that level, or if it changes from charging to discharging, for instance. As you can see, it's not that widely supported, so you have to check whether it's available with feature testing. In this case, navigator.getBattery. And if you look here, you see that Edge is not supporting it. But since a few days, we have Edge Canary, the development version that's based on Chromium. So Chrome supports it, and now every new version of Edge that will be released will also support it. If you do that, you get a battery back. It will tell you whether it's charging or not, and if it's charging, how much time it will take to come up to 100%. The same for discharging, but to 0, of course, and the current level. As I said, you can hook into events, so you can act on that. If you see that the level is below 10% maybe, you should not provide heavy images or videos or stuff like that to your user. You can protect them from draining their battery. As you can see, something already happened on my laptop here. It's now 63%, so let the demo gods be with me. If I plug it in, and I plug it out, and I plug it in, to infinity and beyond. Yeah, that's a different movie. Now it says it's charging. You see, it was discharging, and now it's charging again. All right, next one. Captain America. Like me, he's a handsome guy, but that's not his strength. Me neither, by the way. It's memory. So the device memory API we're using here. What does it do? Well, as it says, it provides information about the device memory. The device memory. Keep that in mind, device memory. It's in gigabytes, but it's not the available memory, it's the installed memory on your device. So it gives you a sense of whether you're on a high-end or a low-end device, but if they're running Chrome, they're already losing 60% of their available memory, so yeah. These are the possible values, 0.25, 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, and 8. That's done to protect the low-end and high-end devices from fingerprinting and stuff. It's also now, you don't get 1.2578% or gigabytes or something like that. No, it's rounded down to the nearest number. Still, you can use it to help the user. Again, feature detection. Does it support device memory? If it does, ask for the amount. And in my case, it's at least 8 gigabytes because this laptop has 16. But this is the max he can do. Okay. Next one. The flash. He is fast. Your network connection could be fast too, but it provides more information than only the speed. We can check whether your what your speed is. You can also calculate it, but this is the easy way just to check whether you're on a low-end or a high-end connection. And as you can see, if you are on slow 2G, that's like Edge or something, just surf text-only pages maybe. Don't go with big videos and images. And gradually it will become better. You can listen to changes. For instance, if you're in the Netherlands by train, there are some pieces in the land that you're dropping down in connection because it's nature and no good reception there. But later on it will bump in, so you can act on that. My initial connection speed here is 4G. That's the max. Yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi, but 4G is the maximum. But I can change that. I could say, well, I am, in this case, I use the slow 3G, and that corresponds to 2G. Or 3G. And I've turned it off again. I'm on 4G again. Oh. But there's something better. That's called connection.type. In this case, it could be whether you're on Bluetooth or Ethernet or Wi-Fi. It gives you a little more information. If you're on cellular, for instance, it could be very slow. So you could combine the cellular with the 2 or 3G. And maybe don't preload videos directly. Just wait until they hit the button. And somebody please tell Facebook that. Or if they are on Ethernet and Wi-Fi, maybe you can pre-catch already some assets or pages already. Only thing is, it's only supported on Android. What you can also check for is the online or offline status. Is a user connected to a network? A network. Not necessarily the internet. You can have a great Wi-Fi connection, but still no access to the internet. So it gives you some information, and maybe you could think of like a user is filling out a big form on your website. Don't do that, split it up in smaller ones, but say you have a very big form on your website. You can check whether the user still has a network connection. And if it doesn't, please inform the user saying, well, maybe you don't want to submit it right now because you're going to lose the data. Also, if you're looking at things like progressive web apps, you could find out if a user is connected or not. And if not, you can say, well, we saved this data from our website for you. Maybe you want to look at that in the meantime. Okay. It's easy to use in this case. It's just navigate a dot online, and it's true or false. And there are event listeners for switching from online to offline. So in my case, I'm now online. I'm not going to shut off the Wi-Fi, because that's never a good thing if you're doing demos. I just use the developer tools in Chrome to say, I'm offline now. And you see it will detect immediately and you can act on it. And I'm back online. Okay. Next one. This is Black Canary. It's not from a movie, but it's from the TV series Arrows. She has a temper, let's say, and she has a very, very loud voice called a canary cry, and you can see what happens. So what browser API could relate to that, maybe? Someone? Speaker volume? Audio, yes. The web audio API. You can do a lot of stuff with the web audio API, and you can see it's good supported everywhere. For instance, when HTML5 came out in 2011, I think, we got this audio element. And it's very easy to play an audio file this way. I have 3 examples here, an OGG file, an MP3, and a WAV. It will just go from top to bottom. So if you have an OGG file, it will play that if your browser supports that. If your browser doesn't support it, it will fall back to the next one. And I have the attribute controls here to make sure that you have a player available. So I could just play this.
Wow, nice suit. Zip it, Stanley!
For instance. Sorry. Don't do this. Don't say autoplay and loop and no controls, because then we're going back to the 90s, where we had the background sound playing some marvelous MIDI file and loop it infinite. So don't do this. If you want to get your users angry, okay. What you can do is say, for instance, I don't want to preload this audio. Normally, if you have an audio element on your website, it will preload the file that you're referring to. As I said, if you have a user that's maybe on 2G and a low battery and low memory device memory, you might want to say, well, let's not preload this and let the user act on it if he wants to hear it or not. What you also can do is only preload the metadata, like how long is this audio clip. Okay, that's playing audio. We can also record audio. And if I enable this, again, there's a warning in top that these websites want to use, in this case, my microphone. Okay, that's allowed. Okay. And you can see already it's not recording, but it's getting my voice and making the sound waves. So I can say, hello, PHP Serbia, it's great to be here. And you can see now in the browser there is an audio file that I recorded. And because I like to hear my own voice, hello, PHP Serbia, it's great to be here. You can play it also. If you want to save this, you have to send it to an API on your own server if you want to use MP3, because that's a proprietary format that's not available to save it in the browser. How does this work? Well, I created an element, in this case, audio to have a player, and I use mediadevice.getUserMedia to get input from, in this case, audio. If you do that, and the user approves that, you get a stream. And that stream is by default binary, and it's good. There's a class called blob that loves binary data for storing. So you can store it in a blob, and in the end, set the source of that audio element to the contents of that blob. Okay, playing audio, recording audio. How about creating audio? And this is my favorite part, and you understand later on why. What you have to do is create an audio context. And you create an oscillator to eventually generate a tone you want to hear. And that tone you can set a frequency and a type. In this case, the frequency is 100 hertz, so that's very low. And oscillator type is sawtooth. It's you'll hear it. It's more grinchy. What you do then is connect it and start it. And please be sure you also stop it. Otherwise, you have to reload the page or something, because it will continue on and on. In this case, I used the audio context.current time. That's a way better built-in clock than, say, set timeout, for instance. So if you want to compose music, for instance, you need to use this clock. So if I put it all together in a few lines of code, I can make you suffer. Because this is the 100 hertz sound. Don't put it down. But I can also create a high one. Oh, I like this. Or a super high one. Let me make you a deal. If you can hear the super high one, I will buy your ticket for next year for this conference. If you're lying, we'll think about a good punishment. Okay, here we go. The first one who hears it. No one? Good. Because if you could hear it, you're either Batman, you're a bat or a dog or something, because this was 40 kilohertz. And 40 kilohertz is not a frequency we can hear. Maximum we can hear is about 20 kilohertz. If you're young, healthy. At my age, it's probably 13 kilohertz, I think. So it's a good thing he didn't say, yeah, I heard it. Okay. Another great thing is that there's been in the music industry a standard called MIDI, already from the 80s, which enables musicians to interact with each other on the same interface. And later on, it's also become available in the browser, so why not have fun with that? As you can see, well, Edge is coming there now, but it's mostly Chrome and Opera. So you have to do feature detection again. See if your browser supports MIDI. If it does, then you can request the access, and if you get the access, it will trigger, in this case, on MIDI success. The function on MIDI success will listen to any input that comes from that MIDI device. And if it gets input, it will go to get MIDI message. This is get MIDI message. It receives, hey, a message. That message is an array of 2 or 3 items. The first one is the command, and the most common commands are 128 and 144. 128 means, okay, someone, for instance, released the button. And if it's 144, you press it down. The second is the note. So if it's on the left side of the keyboard or on the right side of the keyboard, for instance. And the third one is the velocity. So how hard does somebody press a button? If it's not there, usually when the command is 128, so it releases, then you set it to default 0. You can interact with them. Sorry. We focus on node on. It passes the node and the velocity in this case. Node on will calculate the frequency based on the node you touched. I didn't invent this mathematics, but it's supposed to be working correctly, so I just copied it. And after that, if you have that frequency, you can set the oscillator frequency to that value and the gain, so the volume, to the velocity of the push. So let me demonstrate that. I'll get my MIDI device. Small, easy to travel with. Let me connect it. It's just a USB connection, nothing particular. And you can see if I hit connect, it connects to an Akai MPK Mini. Okay. That means now I can send information from this MIDI device to the browser. So if I hit a node, it sends it. Okay. But maybe we can play a little song. I used to be a DJ in the end of the 90s, and what we did was just playing other people's records and mixing them. Nowadays, you have to create your own stuff, so I'm not that well with that. So what I did was I took a lesson video to play a little song for you. I feel like a rock star now, thank you. You know, you probably know this is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or for the Dutch it's something different also. Not many people know that, but I did this in Utrecht a few weeks ago, and everybody said, no, that's not Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Okay, but it's just the keyboard. So I have these knobs on top. I can fool around with it. If I hit a node, I can change the oscillator, or annoy you. The knobs on top are exactly the same like the keys on the keyboard. It just sends a 3-number array. Like, what do you want to do? And I just programmed them differently in JavaScript. But I also have these tabs. And I really like that because maybe you can put some MP3s behind it. So if I hit this one. Yeah, I know this is not my typical DC or Marvel superhero movie, but it's one of the easiest samples to use because this is Queen, and Queen made a lot of other stuff. You heard it yesterday already, right? We will rock you! Are you up for it? Let's try. Thank you.
I like it! I like it! Hey, 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 hey!
That's enough, right? The possibilities are limitless, but my musical talents are not. All right, let's move on to something different. Let's move on to this dude, Superman. Heat vision. I don't have anything with heat, but I do have something with vision. Video. Or, as it's called, the Media Capture and Streams API. Like audio, there's a video element available that leaves you the possibility to play a video from your own website. You don't have to include an iframe from YouTube or whatever. You can play it from your own website. There's one downside, is that also the bandwidth is from your website. I had a client that desperately not wanted to have his video on YouTube, but on his own website. And after a week, he called me and said, "Can you please put it on YouTube?" Because he was through his monthly allowance. It's very easy to use. I set the controls here so I can stop and start it or mute it. And in this case, I just want an MP4 to run. With the controls, I can set it on full screen and just play it.
Are you Tony Stank?
Yes, this is Tony Stank. You're in the right place. Thank you for that. Never dropping that, by the way. Table for one, Mr. Stank, please, by the bathroom.
Okay. There are more attributes like autoplay and loop and muted. Use it wisely. Autoplaying video on the background is hip, but it also can be very annoying. Definitely mute it because you don't want to scare the user with loud, insane loud music or people talking or something like that. It's not only playing video, like audio, it can also record video. And in this case, I can start my camera. Again, asking for permission to use my camera, luckily. And I say, okay. The video will go on. And you can see me on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. I want to make a screenshot of this. So I have to align nicely between the yellow lines to get a nice shot of myself. Okay. Well, at least you can see my hair. What I did here is have a video element on autoplay. If you don't add autoplay, it will take only the first frame, and that's usually is just black. So make sure it's on autoplay. Then you can hook into it with JavaScript, and like the audio, you use getUserMedia to get access to incoming information. In this case, I only want to have the video. So video is true, and I get a stream back, and that stream I can set to the video source. And with that, it's live video. You can do weird stuff with it. My friend Azim used machine learning with it to play Pac-Man with his head. I'm not sure if that's the most easiest way to play it, but he seems to enjoy it. Or this guy doing duck hunt with his head and some more face recognition. I think he needs to blink his eyes or something to shoot. Yeah, you might have too much time in your life. Okay. Move on to the next one. This green guy. The Hulk, and as he says, he's always angry. The Hulk is pretty powerful, but also pretty heavy. So what do you think that API could be? Use your WebGL. Vibration. Vibration API. It's pretty well supported, but there's one downside. You need to have a device that can actually vibrate. Your laptop cannot vibrate. At least mine cannot, only if I drop it maybe. But so if you look at the support, then you should go to Android. Feature detection with, do you support vibrate? And there are two options. You can let it vibrate once, in this case for 200 milliseconds, or you can give it a pattern. And it will, in this case, it will vibrate for 100 milliseconds, stop for 200, vibrate for 300, etc. I do have an Android phone at home, but I thought it would take too much time to bring it here and hand it out, and you can feel it. If you have an Android phone with Chrome or Samsung Internet, you can scan the QR code above. Actually, this whole presentation is a website, browserapis.nl. So later on, if you want to see some stuff, go to that website. But do it on a laptop or a desktop because it's not responsive. Sorry. But the only way for me, if you do, by the way, if you do scan the QR code, you have to hit the Hulk one time in the screen, and it should start vibrating. And for those who don't have Android, this is a video I recorded in a hotel last year to show you what happens. Yeah, it's something. You have to keep in mind that also Firefox is supporting it, that some of these APIs were, say, invented for operating systems on mobile devices. Firefox OS, anybody remembers that? No, they don't either. So they need a vibration API, for instance, to alert if you get a message. Let me see, how much time do I left? Yeah, okay. Next one. The Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four. Well, what's her power? Being invisible or reflect or deflect light in this case. Any ideas? What API that could be? Great. The Page Visibility API. And that's really a simple API, just looks whether the page is visible or not. So if you have multiple tabs open, it will check whether you're still visible. Widely supported, easy to use. Document.hidden is true or false, that's it. There are some intermediate states like pre-render and stuff like that. You don't really need to use that. But what you do want to use is the event, the visibility change event, because you can act on that. Let me give you an example. A little part of video from the movie, and you can see that page visibility is visible at this moment. Let's play this.
Now back off.
Susan, let's not fight.
No, let's.
Susan, fire!
Hey, she's gone. Okay.
Marco. Polo.
Marco Polo, that's not a name, right? Maybe it's a game or something? Let's look on Google. Marco, oh yeah, game. The player who is it shouts Marco, and the other players must respond by shouting Polo. Okay, he likes to play a game, but he plays it wrong because he's shouting Marco and Polo. Okay, I didn't say it was a great movie. But did you notice what happened? The video stopped playing. You don't hear the audio. If I close this tab,
Mark.
don't worry, she will win in the end. Spoiler alert, sorry, I should have said that the other way around. So this, for things that's going on the website, you might want to turn them off if a user goes away to another website or to another program on their machine. Okay, next one. Our friend Groot. He's a really good dancer. Likes Michael Jackson, if you've seen the movie. But he also has a great vocabulary, right?
I am Groot.
Okay, yeah, that's it. No more. Any ideas? There it is, the Speech Synthesis API. This is my favorite one to pronounce. Bear with me on the next slides. It's essentially text-to-speech. That's it. So, let me break my tongue here. You create, in this case, a synth from the speech synthesis. From that synth, you can get voices. And those voices are an array. Then you create a speech synthesis utterance with the text you want to pronounce or spoken. Then I have to connect a voice to that utterance. In this case, I use the Google UK English male voice that's available in that array. Bear with me, that's only available if you're online in Google Chrome. Google provides about 15 extra voices for you, but there are default voices in your browser available already. Then I set a pitch and a rate to mimic Groot's voice, and I say speak, and that's what he did. And I can show you this. If I open this, you see all the voices that are already available in my browser. You have a scroll down, you can see the Google ones extra there. Unfortunately, there's not a Serbian voice, so we're going to do it with some English. Say, I have one of those MacBook keyboards that is failing. So, oh yeah, there it is.
This is an awesome conference.
Okay, he's really excited. Maybe slow down, boy.
This is an awesome conference.
Okay, that's better. Let me grab. No, that's not. No, let me use a woman's voice.
This is an awesome conference.
Okay, that was yesterday. This morning she said,
This is an awesome conference.
she had a nice party, I think. So you can play around with the rate, the pitch, and the voices. Myself, for Dutch, I think we have one guy that's Dutch and one woman that's Flemish, Belgium Dutch. But English has more variations. I use this on a project to read out content of a website that was a course for people that had a low ability to stay focused on text and read it. So we created the text, but also have a capability to hit the play button and just listen to it. All right. Next one. Dr. Strange. He does some weird stuff. It's magic, and what's also magic for me is the Web Bluetooth API. You can control Bluetooth devices through your laptop or your phone, for instance. And how does that work? First of all, you have to request access to a device. And what's important here is that you use a filter to say which device you want to connect to. I've seen this gone terribly wrong at another conference where a speaker was also using the Web Bluetooth API but didn't use a filter. So there were about 250 people in there with 250 mobile phones with Bluetooth. And what happens is Google Chrome will show them all, but will eventually just die because it's too much. So I want to connect later on to my friend over there, my robot. So I just say a prefix to that name. All right. The Web Bluetooth protocol is a little bit cumbersome, a little bit weird, but let me try to explain it like this. You have to connect to something called GATT. That's a server, G-A-T-T. That's like an array of objects. Then you want to use a particular service. You want to use the primary service of that thing, and that's an object. From that service, you want to use a particular characteristic, like a property. And with that characteristic, you can write values to it. And those values should always be bytes, because that's really small and that's easy to transport through Bluetooth. So let me wake up my friend. I'm not on the stage here, so I'm going to try to do it on the table here and not on the floor, because otherwise you won't see anything in the back, I think. What? It's alive. Let's see if I can connect to it. You see it will pop up a dialog. And yeah, there's my friend Mip. I can connect. And if I connect, his belly should be green. And it is. Now I'm going to do something dangerous. Try and keep it on the table. First of all, wake him up. Yes, stay. Sometimes he has a mind of his own. I can move, with the arrow keys, I can move forward and backwards. I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm trying to turn it on the table. Okay, the other way around. Oh yeah, he really likes dancing for you. Oh, that's fun and all, using those buttons, but what if we could use something more fun, like a gamepad? That brings me to another API. This is the Gamepad API. You can use a gamepad on your laptop or desktop, for instance, to play Pac-Man or whatever game, but also to control a robot. And I hope it is connected to it. If I do this, yes. Ooh, it's getting close. Other way around. I just hit the arrow keys left and right, and it will. I think I have to stop, right? Yeah, I can a little bit forward. Dance, little one, dance. I tried to tell that to my girlfriend, but never works. She is definitely wearing the pants, definitely. Not me. All right. Let's switch. Oh, sorry, we disconnected him. Talking about powerful women. Captain Marvel. This is not about a particular API anymore, because we could go on for hours and hours. It's more like there are other marvelous APIs. Sorry for the bad joke that nobody laughs at. We have the notification API, for instance. We all love those notifications in our screen, right? For every application, every website. Of course, I want to have notifications of a website saying, well, we updated our website. No. Use this wisely. The only, say, good implementation I've seen is like with Slack. If you're running Slack in the browser, you get a notification that somebody posted a nice meme or something. Serviceworker API is really important, for instance, to create progressive web apps that can run offline. Screen orientation, device orientation can be used. Credential management API, that's, if that evolves even more, you don't have to write your own login stuff anymore. You can use it, what's right there in the browser. I included network information API, so this shouldn't be in this slide. And also the file API. What we did at Nationaal Nederland is that we used the browser to process a file, not send it to a server, do validation there and work with it. No, we just do it right on the front end. In this case, for us, it's a CSV file or an XML file. We just interacted with it in the browser itself. So you can immediately say whether it's valid or not, for instance. I'm almost coming to the end. I've included a QR code of join in, and also the link is below there. I know all the speakers really love if you leave feedback for them. Yes, in joined in. He agrees. If it's good feedback, put it there. If it's bad feedback, don't tell anyone, please. No, please. Rate it, please. Okay, one last thing. He doesn't agree to do one last thing. Well, I do. I'm going to use web Bluetooth again and connect to something. Actually, I connected to my t-shirt. It's Chinese, so it's a little bit tiny, sorry. That's why I had to use this, because my Tor body is, no. Okay. We roll the credits. And if you go to Marvel movies, you know what not to do when the credits run, right? Don't leave. Because there's always, well, not at the last one, but usually there is something extra. As I said, you can go to browsersapi.nl to see everything. And I will post a link on Twitter afterwards also. But I said, don't leave. Yes. Because, okay, this is also web Bluetooth. But we have text-to-speech, say the speech synthesis API. I love it. But we also have the speech recognition API, and that's what I'm going to use now. Is anybody there? Yes. It's our friend Stan Lee from somewhere, I would say cloud or someone else's computer, but somewhere above there. Hello, Stan. Well, thank you. Any message for us?
You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
Enough said. I hope I did make a little difference in your life today, and you learned a thing or one or two. Thank you. I see there are some questions.
Yes, there are questions. Would you like me to read them loud, or are you going to do that?
I will read them. No
Okay,
problem.
good.
How precise geolocation is? Whoa. I start with the second one. How precise is geolocation usually? What if you use a VPN? I haven't tried it out with a VPN. Usually it's pretty accurate. If you have a good, if you're outside with your mobile phone, you have to have good connection to the UMTS stuff. I think if you're using a VPN, you might end up getting the location of your VPN, because that's essentially your public IP address then. How can we protect clients from bad websites abusing the APIs? Well, luckily, like audio and video are already protected by having to give permission. It's not like you're using the Facebook app and everything is recorded for you, even if you don't want to. And other ones, like memory, isn't that precise to, say, fingerprint someone specifically. So it's used to help you give good content for your user, but not in a way that you can fingerprint them, for instance. What API do you use most often? Can you give some examples of use cases you've had? Well, one I mentioned is like the text-to-speech. That's what I used lately in a project. Geolocation is one I use very much, because people are too lazy to go to Google Maps themselves to find out where your office is, for instance. Just provide them with that immediately. Other ones I sometimes use just as progressive enhancement. If it's supported by your browser, it's fine. I can do something extra. If not, you just get the normal thing. What's the talk about in room A? I say use whatever works for you. So that's it, I think. Thank you.